Hello, Patriots, prank citizens, and truth seekers. Today is Friday, September 7th. We have new Q. I'm calling this Sleeper Cells Activated, and you'll see why. It's all getting pretty interesting. It's far more interesting than any movie I've ever seen. So we'll be looking at Q posts 2105 through 2117. Let's dig in. So in this first post, Q calls out this faker named Microchip, and he links to a video tutorial on how to edit chats on Discord, which Microchip was using to prove that he is Q and it's all fake. Now, these same chat logs were used by Jack Posobiec to prove Microchip was the original Q, and Jack Posobiec is an Alex Jones associate, and Q has suggested that these people are all part of the Israeli CIA, which is the Mossad. So, we'll look at this, and Q says, these people are stupid, their attempts will fail. So here it is, Microchip, Microfake. You can change any chats on Discord, even those dated back to 2017, and it's just a real short video, minute and 8 seconds long, how to change text messages going back in time. So obviously, you could fake anything. Then this next post was a big one. It is containing 3 different posts that are recycled by Q because they have important information, and sometimes there's so much that we kind of breeze through it, and we really need to go back and look at these things. So here's the first one he wanted us to revisit from May 21st. Military Op, green. General K, JFK, maybe, I think that was General Kelly, or I'm not really sure, it's been a while. Full disclosure, the general statement. Once the extremely guarded and highly classified information is finally revealed to House investigators, the Director of National Intelligence, the public, etc., RR, who's Rod Rosenstein, must recuse or forcefully be terminated. Rosenstein is Deputy Director of the Department of Justice under Christopher Wray. He's a holdover from Obama, and we've all been trying to figure out for many months, is he a white hat or a black hat? Please put your comments in the below and just let us know what you think. It'd be interesting to see how many people are convinced he's a black hat. So then Q says, what was his Senate confirmation vote? Well, it's like 94-6 in favor of him, so we know he's deep state. At least he was. Wray reports to Rod Rosenstein, which is an important fact. Who do you trust? Q has said trust Wray and trust Jeff Sessions, who's the Attorney General. RR recused or fired. Who has direct oversight of Mueller? Well, you go, if he's out, then you go to number 3. Or Sessions will unrecuse himself until that position is refilled. The number 3 was Rachel Brand. She's gone. She's working at Walmart. Why was she dismissed? Well, she played an important part in getting Congress to reapprove spying in certain situations. And Q says, think timing. And then he posts this from a Justice Department document. The succession question is actually a bit complicated. By default, under an obscure statute known as the Vacancies Reform Act of 1989, Brand's temporary successor as the, quote, acting Associate Attorney General is her principal deputy, Jesse Panuccio. That same statute would also allow the president to choose someone else to serve as the acting AAG on a temporary basis for up to 210 days. The the pool of individuals from which the president could draw in this case includes individuals already holding Senate-confirmed positions elsewhere in the executive branch. And then it puts in the name of someone who's gone already, Scott Pruitt, as an example, or senior civil service lawyers in the Justice Department specifically. Okay, and then he quotes acting. When does the clock run out? 210 days. Why is Schneiderman's removal extremely relevant? Schneiderman was removed as Attorney General for the Southern not Attorney General, but U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. He's gone because he was a slave master of women and possibly even worse. So Q says, trust blank, these people are stupid, D5, Q. Again, avalanche, or that means 45, which is POTUS. The next one in this very long post. An anonymous person kind of argues up here that the FISA doesn't have much impact. And then Q starts shouting. He's like, no, FISA was the start. FISA was the immediate confirmation of illegal acts done by the people who signed off on it. It was the immediate confirmation, the start of Hussein's spy campaign to rig an election, and it was based on false information. FISA implicates Hillary and the Democrat Party as feeders of false information with the intent of securing the mainstream media and a blast/insurance. The FISA was the implication of senior members of the UK, including their spy agencies, U.S. intelligence agencies, the White House, the Five Eyes, which is the intelligence community in our 5 partners, so Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Britain, we're part of the 5, so our 4 partners, the Republican Party, Congress and Senate, of known corruption in an effort to retain power and rig an election, plus safeguard events by political kill to act while in power, given the mainstream media fake push of the Russian narrative. You know, the Russians stole the election with Donald Trump. The FISA is the thing that ties the mainstream media heads, TV, behind the scenes, the 6 corporations that run all of the media in this country, to the Democrat Party. The other foreign heads of state in a cooperative strategy. So all of them working together to get rid of Trump. FISA brings down the House. FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act, cannot be used to get information on FISA warrants. Trump declassifying these remaining 20 pages is the key parts that factually demonstrate the dirty or fake dossier was used as a primary source to secure the highest level of intel or spying on primary Republican opponent DJT before and after the election, intelligence assets, foreign and domestic spying on the president for the office of the presidency of the United States of America, logical thinking. So this FISA it outlines everything that these people have done wrong. All of the sedition, all of the treason, all of the things that they have done to try and steal the presidency from the American people who voted Donald Trump in. Q says public awareness, FISA, and spying. Once the public becomes fully aware, it's going to bring the house down. The foundation has been built by putting John Huber as a U.S. attorney to prosecute these people. And then he talks about spelling errors, and let's move on. So this third one. Now this is from August 19th. Movie 1, it's showtime. Okay, and this describes how the FBI worked with this guy named Christopher Steele with Bruce Orr as an intermediary and Bruce's wife Nellie, plus others, who instructed the DOJ to release selected text messages of Peter Strzok and his lover Lisa Page. When did Rod Rosenstein learn of the involvement of Bruce and Nellie Orr? What happens if he knew prior to signing the FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page? Why did Rosenstein, under congressional testimony, refuse to answer the question regarding the reading of FISA prior to its execution? Then, who signed page 380, 389, 390, 391, 392 of this request to spy on Carter Page? Well, he's going to show us. Firewalls. Who signed? Firewalls. Who signed? Firewalls. Okay, so this is the separation that was protecting them. They're gone now. The 20 pages of the FISA redacted information, when those 20 pages come out, that's the beginning of the trilogy. Movie 1, full, the start, plot, how the intelligence apparatus, the State Department, Department of Justice of the U.S., in joint effort with our primary foreign allies and other covert assets, as directed by Hussein in the White House, in coordination with Hillary, colluded and conspired to rig the presidential election of 2016 in an effort to install Hillary, frame DJT, projection, blame him for what she's doing, create emergency contingencies regarding the installation of safeguards and firewalls to prevent exposure, or continuation of presidency should the counter fail to ensure operators, actors, agents of power, past and present, remain in control, and use sources, covert assets of the fake news media to carry out X-frame barrage of strategic, coordinated, and guided attacks designed to divide, cover, shelter, justify impeachment or removal in an effort to regain control and prevent the public awareness of illegal, criminal, and treasonous acts. Movies 1 to 3, full list, coming soon to a theater near you. Movie 2, coming this fall. Movie 3, TBA, enjoy the show, Q. Now we've been waiting, we've been hoping that Trump this week was going to declassify, and he hasn't done that yet. Well, today's only Friday, so we'll see, because sometimes they like to do these things on the weekends, catch people unawares. So here is where all the signing was done in this set of 400 pages. So page 380, we have this signed by Supervisory Special Agent of the FBI. I don't know who it is. It's redacted. Then we have on 389, it was Andrew McCabe that signed it. 390, this doesn't even look like a signature to me. 391, Rod Rosenstein. And then 392, you can't read it, but it says attorney right here. And remember now, this is from October of 2016. So is it possible that the attorney that signed that page, well, there are two people maybe, Sally Yates, but she was deputy AG, so she had signed it, she would have probably, it wouldn't have said attorney, it would have said deputy attorney general. But it could have been Dana Bente. He was the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, and he was an attorney at that time, so possibly that last one was his signature. Okay, then underneath all of the stuff I've just been reading was this link to the Real Clear Politics article here, and it is about Carter Page right here and Devin Nunes, who's the House Intelligence Chairman and a Republican from California. He said a large amount of the FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page has been redacted. Why? In order to cover up the involvement of the Steele dossier, which was a big fabricated piece of nonsense, and it has nothing to do with national security. Therefore, he never should have been spied on. You have to prove when you use a FISA warrant to spy on someone that they are a threat to national security. In an interview with Tucker Carlson Wednesday night, Devin Nunes said that the public has a right to see the redacted pages and the part that the Steele dossier played in getting that FISA warrant issued. Okay, re-review is important. Who signed? Page 380, 389, 390, 391, 392. Okay, 389 was McCabe, 391 Rosenstein, 271 Dana Bente, 269 James Comey, page blank, Sally Yates. Then Q says this, knowingly used false intelligence. Think HRC paid for the fake dossier, the bulk of it. Remember, think Steele communicating with Bruce Orr after Steele was fired by the FBI because he wasn't allowed, he was paid so many payments and then he was fired, but he kept meeting with Bruce Orr in order to collect intelligence. Think DOJ, FBI classified leaks to fake news, insert into FISA application in an effort to provide new sources. Okay, and then if this doesn't make sense, I'll explain it in a minute. think President's Daily Briefing, placement, so it was placed in there by Brennan to authenticate the source as credible. Then think Bruce Orr and Andrew Weissman, he resigned from the FBI or the DOJ in order to work for Robert Mueller on the special counsel team in order to investigate Trump. And he was given regular updates regarding the Steele dossier, part of the firewall. He was working for Mueller. Now, all of these people who we've talked about, especially those who signed the warrant, had to testify with these words: I declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing information regarding Carter W. Page is true and correct. You guys just signed your indictment warrant right there. All right, the next one, 2107. Rather than read all of this, it's military intelligence, strategic signals intelligence, and some code in order to spy, the good guys spying on what these bad guys are doing. And then this link to a Twitter status on Jim Jordan. Then under it, it says, hashtag FlyRR, fly hashtag. Desperate people do desperate things. It is during this period of time that surveillance pays off. When does a bird sing? Q. Here's the Jim Jordan tweet, and he is a Republican. I can't remember what state he's from. Yeah, I do. Ohio. The key players at the FBI and the DOJ knew about the Orr's involvement in the dossier. So that would be Bruce and Nellie Orr. She is a Russia subject matter expert, and he was working at the the FBI. And of course, back and forth, putting that dossier together and getting the information back to the FBI. They knew the Clinton campaign paid for it. They knew Steele was extremely biased against Trump. They didn't tell the court any of this. 2108. Goodbye, Mr. Rosenstein. Signed, Q. So that makes me think that this weekend or early next week he's going to be gone. 2109. Why did Rod Rosenstein recommend the firing of James Comey to POTUS? Well, it was because he overstepped his bounds. Did the firing of Comey provide the necessary vehicle to appoint Mueller? Who appointed Mueller? Rod Rosenstein. The plan, inter-organizational collaboration, is being carried out by highest level former and current positions, foreign and domestic. FISA is the start. Okay, and this little piece of interesting information, Joe DeGeneva, a former U.S. attorney who was interviewed by Sean Hannity, dropped an information bomb when he said, and I quote, "We can no longer trust the Department of Justice under Rosenstein. He's now under investigation, and he can't do FISAs anymore." Did you know that he was under investigation? I didn't. It's not being announced. I don't know how DeGeneva knows, but he knows. Okay, and this relates back to why Rosenstein suggested or told Trump that he thinks that Comey should be fired. So it's dated May 9th, 2017. Here's the key part. The director was wrong to usurp the Attorney General's authority on July 5th, 2016 and announce his conclusion that the case should be closed without prosecution. Now, this is the case against Hillary. It is not the function of the director to make such an announcement. At most, the director should have said the FBI had completed its investigation and presented its findings to federal prosecutors. But the FBI director is never empowered to supplant federal prosecutors and assume command of the Justice Department. There is a well-established process for other officials to step in when a conflict requires the recusal of the Attorney General. On July 5th, however, the director announced his own conclusions about the nation's most sensitive criminal investigation without the authorization of duly appointed Justice Department leaders. Compounding the error, the director ignored another long-standing principle. We do not hold press conferences to release derogatory information about the subject of a declined criminal investigation. Derogatory information sometimes is disclosed in the course of criminal investigations and prosecutions, but we never release it gratuitously. The director laid out his version of the facts for the news media as if it were a closing argument, but without a trial. It is a textbook example of what federal prosecutors and agents are taught not to do. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff that makes me really wonder about Rosenstein being compromised, and he made a deal with the Trump administration. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Okay, 2110. This is a tweet from January 29th when Andrew McCabe was fired. Actually, he retired. He was not fired till March, but this is the day that he left the FBI. Special Agent Andrew McCabe stood tall over the last 8 months when small people were trying to tear down an institution we all depend on. He served with distinction for 2 decades. I wish Andy well. I also wish continued strength for the rest of the FBI. America needs you. Okay, Mr. Windbag, this is what Q said you meant. Special Agent Andrew McCabe stood tall over the last 8 months. Do not talk. When small people, the sheep, were trying to tear down an institution we all depend on. Cover. He served with distinction for 2 decades. We own you and your family. I wish Andy well. And then he puts in brackets 187, which is code for murder. I also wish continued strength for the rest of the FBI. This is a general threat to others. America needs you. Activate sleeper cells. And this is from January 29th. So there's the code again. Activate sleeper cells in America Needs You, which is very interesting considering what's been going on. The use of those words. Then this person on the HAN board says, the James Comey tweet about standing tall over the last 8 months, activate sleeper cells. I think he was saying in 8 months to activate. That would be September. And Q says, do you believe in coincidences? New York Times, anon source, sleeper cells. So that refers back to the opinion editorial that came out, published by the New York Times from an anonymous source who say they're senior executive level in the White House, trashing the president and suggesting he should be removed by use of the 25th Amendment. And so this would be one of the sleeper cells doing his thing or her thing. Now, 2 days ago, John Podesta tweeted this. It is a Washington Post article. And Podesta says, real witch hunt begins. The sleeper cells have awoken. Trump and aides shaken by resistance op-ed. Logical thinking. The month is September. Public learning. The grand jury was impaneled to investigate or to prosecute McCabe. Yes, we learned that this week, but we also learned it's been going on for maybe as long as 6 months. Is that a coincidence? No, it's not. Follow the connections. We have it all. Q. Then an anonymous person said, can we at least have the D class, please, good sir? And Q says, specific timing rests with POTUS. Hints expend our ammunition. So in other words, we don't want to waste our ammo. Think New York Times Anon article as example. The world is watching. Q. 2115. FISA warrant issued and approved on Papadopoulos. Mueller goes after Papadopoulos. You must target, remove, and silence all those illegally targeted for FISA surveillance. Okay, so they went after George Papadopoulos. And here's the article, and Q says clockwork. Just as a background, George Papadopoulos was entrapped. He was targeted. They tricked him. They gave him information saying Hillary Clinton. There's bad news out there about Hillary, and he got interested, and then later on somebody asked him, they sent somebody else in to corner him and say, hey, what do you know? And he said, I hear there's bad news out there on Hillary Clinton. And that was the gotcha. It was a complete setup. And now here's what Fox says. I want you to just, as I read this, I'm reading this wondering, is this just a bunch of baloney? How much of this is really true? I don't trust anything anymore. So I'll just read it and you decide what you think. Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos was sentenced Friday to 14 days in prison for lying to the FBI during the Mueller probe. Papadopoulos was also sentenced to 13 months supervised release, 200 hours community service, and a $9,500 fine. Before his sentencing, the former advisor said he was, quote, deeply embarrassed and ashamed. My entire life has been turned upside down. I hope to have a second chance to redeem myself. Mueller's team had pushed for a 6-month prison sentence while Papadopoulos' defense had requested probation. Now, this is what he did. He served as a foreign policy advisor to Trump for the campaign, and he was the first to plead guilty in the Mueller probe. According to the indictment, he was told by a Maltese professor in 2016, April that year, that Russian officials had dirt on Hillary in the form of thousands of emails. He later attempted to use his links to the professor and Russian nationals to attempt to set up a meeting between Trump and Russia President Vladimir Putin. He admitted to lying about those contacts to Mueller's team, which investigators said led them to miss a chance to interview the professor, Joseph Mifsud. Okay, so anyway, I don't know about this. You know, my entire life has been turned upside down. Yeah, I believe that. I hope to have a second chance to redeem myself. If you know you didn't lie, and if you know you did nothing, well, you might have been caught lying by accident, because the FBI is really good at that, catching people up and, not saying things the same way twice. But it was a complete setup. Anyway, I don't know. 2116. Why isn't Carter Page, being targeted and locked up, though? Insulated? So there's the question. Q answers it this way. What FISA is about to be declassified? So the FISA on Carter Page, the 20 pages were missing. Public spotlight. How can you prosecute someone and provide testimony to the judge when you know the true evidence is about to come to light? Digging a deeper hole regarding the testimony to the court? ? Okay, so the most damning parts of the FISA application to spy on Carter Page is about to be revealed. Can they request prosecution of Page now? The judge and the whole world is going to know the truth in a matter of days, probably, and everything in that FISA application is based on lies. So they would just be digging a deeper hole. Okay, finally, the last one, 2117. This is from an anonymous poster on the 8chan. FISA signatures. FISA, the date of the FISA, the first one, was October of 2016. And then he says Comey, Yates, the DOJ, FISA, a second. So every 90 days, these FISA applications have to be renewed. So it started in October, then there was a renewal in January, and another in April of 17, and then another in June of 18. Okay, and he's asking, who signed these things? So we know that Dana Bente resigned in October of 17, but he was hired by Trump as the general counsel of the FBI this January. Sally Yates was fired in January of 17. Comey was fired in May of 17. McCabe was fired after he stepped down in January. Then he was fired in March. So the only one of those top people who's left is Rod Rosenstein, and possibly whoever the AAG and DOJ signatories were. And Q responds to that, if Rosenstein is dirty, Mueller must also be dirty. If Mueller is dirty, Rosenstein must also be dirty. Q. So again, who knows? All right, are you guys ready to pray? It's been a long one. sometimes I think we just need to hang in there and practice being faithful in spite of the fact that, there's a lot of people screaming. It just seems like things are falling apart. Um, it's easy to fall for hoaxes. I fell for one this week. That's why I had a video up, and I put in there this. Um, I thought it was real. A guy admitting to being the one who wrote the New York Times op-ed. It was really, now that I look at it, I think, how did I fall for that? But there's just so much false information out there. So anyway, I pulled the video down, I edited that part out, and I stuck it back up, and a lot of people noticed it was gone, and I apologize for that. I just, I wanted to stop it before more people saw the video. I will always let you know when I make a mistake, especially if it's a big deal. Sometimes I just put it in the description or the comments, but that one was a big one, a big deal. And it just shows how easy it is for us to fall prey to things. So I'm trying to be more careful checking my sources and letting you know when I don't know. Like, I don't know here what this SSA means, but that's not a Q thing. I spent some time looking, couldn't figure it out, couldn't find somebody else who figured it out. So if you know what that means, please put it in the comments. But anyway, let's pray, and I'm just going to pray. I'm going to give you a couple of nice scriptures here, because these people are liars. Proverbs 10:18, he that hides hatred with lying lips and he that utters a slander is a fool. These people are fools because they're going to get caught. Psalm 59:12, for the sin of their mouth and the words of their lips, let them even be taken in their pride, and for cursing and lying which they speak. Every time they do negative things on Trump, they are cursing our president. And that is a man that God has put in office. And they better stop. They better turn themselves in. They better quit now. They're still going to have to pay the penalty for their sin as far as, the justice system that we have. But they need to make themselves right with God. And I just pray that anybody who has a heart to do that, they will do it. And they're still going to have to suffer the consequences, but they'll at least have a clean conscience. And Father, I just pray that you would allow us all to see this come to fruition. All of this work by Q, by the president, by the people that are trying to do the right thing. Let us all see it, Father, not for our glory, not for their glory, not for Trump's glory. He doesn't want the glory. He just wants to clean things up. But because you gave us this amazing country, Father, you have given us an opportunity to exercise our free speech, to practice our religion, which I don't have a religion, I have a relationship with you, but they don't give me problems with that. And when we dial 911, an ambulance comes. There are so many good things about our nation, Father, and we just ask that you would just pull it out of the swamp. You would just drag the good parts out, clean it up, Father, and help us to live in righteousness, and that our grandchildren and our children and our great-grandchildren, that they would be able to live in a country where justice and righteousness is honored. So, Father, help us to all have a great weekend, to just set some of this aside, enjoy relationships that we have with each other, to worship you, and to be ready to hit the ground running next week. And I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.